Today on the 1012 podcast, myself and Chase A. Kiddy welcome Kyle Hunter of the BetUS College Football Show to make picks for every Week 12 Big 12 game. That includes West Virginia versus Baylor, Utah, Arizona, and BYU, Kansas, plus some Big 12 basketball betting tips from Kyle, and a whole lot more on the 1012 today.
This episode is brought to you by Iams Pet Food. When you choose Iams dry dog or cat food, you can see a difference in your pet with your own eyes. Healthy energy in 5 days, healthy digestion in 10 days, and healthy skin and coat in just 25 days. Satisfaction for you and them. Guaranteed or your money back. Feed Iams dry dog or cat food and see a visible difference. Visit iams.com/difference to learn more.
On Friday, November 15th, Netflix and Most Valuable Promotions bring you the highly anticipated heavyweight boxing mega event of the year. Jake El Gallo Paul will go toe-to-toe in the ring against Iron Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet. Don't miss this epic showdown live from AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Watch Paul versus Tyson, Friday, November 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, live only on Netflix.
Welcome to the 1012, the podcast that covers all 16 teams in the Big 12 Conference. We are the flagship show of the 1012 Network. Find every show on the network at 1012network.com. And of course, we are partners with Sports Social, Europe's biggest sports podcast network. I'm your host, Phillip. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday. It is time to make picks for Week 12. I don't like saying Week 12 because that means that the season is almost over. Now, as a college football fan, I am sad. As an Oklahoma State fan, the end can't come soon enough. So I understand that everyone's going to have very mixed feelings about where we are in the current college football season. But I'm excited, both for the end and sad when it will be gone. But I'm also excited to make picks as I am every week. Joining me as he does each week, he is our man at BetMGM, Chase A. Kiddy.
Phillip, evening to you. We got a little bit of a late start tonight, which I had some bonus time to do a little extra pick research, so that was appreciated. We're getting close, man. We got holiday time. We got impending children. We got hoops on TV. I got Santa Clara as the last leg of a parlay tonight. We're just everything going on right now. I love November. Everything's happening.
It is the busiest time of year. Sports, holidays, all of it combined into one just mass ball of excitement and hysteria and all sorts. I'm excited. I'm thrilled for it. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun. Joining us this week, we are now on number 2 of the BetUS College Football Show, which I like to hop into and join the live chat every Wednesday. We had our good friend Gary Seegers on earlier. We will get number 3, Parker Fleming, before the season is over. But I figured we might as well just go for the whole trifecta and get Kyle Hunter on the show today. Kyle, welcome to the 1012, sir.
Good to be here. Happy to be able to talk some Big 12 basketball and football with you. Like you said, this is the busiest time of the year. And as a fan, it's fantastic. It does get a little busy when it's your job. But I'll tell you what. Love seeing both college basketball, have one of the TVs on college basketball, one of them on college football. It's always fantastic this time of the year. A lot going on.
People keep asking, how do you feel about OSU basketball this year? And I'm like, well, the Thunder are really good, and softball season will be here soon. So that's what I got. That's what I'm hanging my hat on. Kyle, we like to start this show off each week by asking our guest for a piece of parenting advice for our good friend Chase, because Chase is a soon-to-be father of twins that are due next month. So every guest who has a child, and one who just had dogs, we asked, can you offer Chase one piece of advice that he can try and take as he begins this parenting journey here in just a few weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. Twins, that's pretty awesome. That will be a lot of fun. So I think for me, the biggest thing is just to, in all seriousness, take the time to be part of their lives. I mean, work and everything about day-to-day life can eat up so much time. And I'm a kind of a workaholic, so it can be hard for me to get away from work at times. But there's never been a time where I've gone back and been like, wow, I spent too much time with my kids. I shouldn't have done that. So I think just taking that time out to be like, you know what, I need to get away. I need to have a little lunch date, a little picnic or something like that, or let's take them to a basketball game. Let's take them to their first football game. Those moments are really awesome. So one by one, as they get older, it's just awesome to look back on those moments, to go back and see, as Facebook reminds you, hey, 5 years ago on this day you did this. Just take it all in. It's a lot of fun.
Quit my job. That's what I heard.
Exactly what I said.
That's paraphrasing, right? Paraphrasing.
Putting in the papers tomorrow.
Well, like he's right. I mean, any opportunity you can, and especially when you have more than one, if you get time for one-on-one with them, that is especially like it's valuable for you. It feels great for them. That's like the greatest gift you can give when you've got multiple kids is one-on-one time with a parent, because they want it so bad. We've got 3 girls, and so anytime one of them gets one-on-one time with a parent, you can just tell the impact it has on them. Look, we're taking the 2 older girls to an OSU football game because tickets are super cheap because the team's terrible, and I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity to take my girls to something they're not going to want to sit through the entire game. Is a game I don't care about because the team's bad. And then my middle girl has been begging for weeks to just come to work with me one day. Like I sit on a computer all day. She's not going to care. But like, if she's going to sit in my office and color for half a day, I'm gonna give that to her, because you know what? It's going to make her happy. She's going to get bored in an hour, and we'll deal with that when it arises. And I'll just feed her candy, and we'll be good to go. So, any opportunity. Kyle's right to make some cool memories with your kids. Take them.
The middle daughter is the one that's not going to the Oklahoma State football game. Did I hear that right?
She is. No, she's going. It's the youngest. We are not taking the 2-year-old to a college football game to sit in the stands when she is the baby and only wants to be held.
The 2-year-old in the Slavin family will definitely grow up and realize they loved me the most. They did not take me to watch 2024 Oklahoma State football.
2024 Oklahoma State versus Texas Tech.
Yeah.
I got to sit that one out and hang out with my grandparents. I was the winner that day.
She is the winner.
We're going to get to last week's results, but one of the reasons I wanted to get Kyle on, aside from the fact that I really enjoy your work on the BetUS show and because you do such a good job, is you also do college basketball betting. And obviously college basketball is going strong right now. The season is here. And so there's a lot going on. Our good friend Daniel Alexander, we always talk when he was on the show, we talked all the time, like that's when he really did a lot of his betting was then. So I just wanted to see if you could offer up some thoughts and advice for anyone. And as I tell everyone, this show is for fun. We do this to talk Big 12. It's a fun way to discuss Big 12. Please don't hold us responsible for any money that you spend on bets based off of what we talk about here. However, I would love to hear your thoughts, Kyle, on this season of college basketball, betting it, and if you have any thoughts on the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, I'm going to go rapid fire on some just 4 general tips on betting college basketball here to start with. Number 1, forget what you saw last year. Those teams are way different than what they were the year before. It used to be that in college basketball, you could remember a lot of what you saw in last February and March and kind of apply it to what's going on. The landscape has changed. Too many coaches are moving on. Obviously, too many players are moving in this new transfer era. Don't bet based on that. People lose money that just say, well, I remember last March, this is the way it was. It doesn't matter anymore. Start back over. Number 2, don't be afraid to lay big numbers early in the season. There's a lot of teams that are actually motivated to cover big numbers, and there are some massive matchup advantages for top teams. I'm not really a guy that really loves to lay, 15, 20, 25 points. Sometimes it's the right thing to do, especially early in the season. Number 3, focus, and I think this would probably be most important of all of them. Focus early in the season on teams that have new coaches, because those are the things that are toughest for the odds makers to set lines on, because the odds makers don't really know what to make of those teams. So that's where if you do a lot of digging, say you know somebody really well, maybe there's new assistant coaches or there's a new head coach that's running a different scheme, whether it be the Big 12, Southland or something, some small conference. you can make some money on those early in the season before everybody gets to know, wait a minute, that team is actually playing way faster. They're pressing, they're, getting the line a lot, things like that. Focus in on those teams that have a lot of changes, especially new coaches. And then fourth, if you're a totals better, I am, and definitely most of my success has been in totals betting. I think it's just up my alley, both in college football and college basketball. But I like being able to try to project the pace of a game. You have to be willing to adapt in totals betting because some teams actually change the way they play during the middle of the season. Say a team that's actually struggling is like, you know what? We're playing really fast, but we suck. So maybe we should slow the game down. This is me not putting too much of a filter on, but at some point you get tired of losing by a ton of points and you say, maybe we should slow it down, try to play a lower scoring game. So recency bias can kind of hurt in some sports, but in college basketball totals betting, I think it helps you. You want to look at the last 3, 4, 5 games, weight those more heavily and say, something changed here. This team was playing 70 possessions per game, and now they're playing 62 possessions per game. So the guy who says, well, I'm still going to average the first game in just the same as the 10th game. Well, if the 10th game is the one they just played and they've completely changed the way they play, I don't think they should be considered equal because this team has decided they better slow it down. So that's my 4 general tips for betting college basketball. And then I have a few Big 12 angles here. Do you want me to just roll through those two here real quick?
Yeah, hit them. Let's hear them.
So I looked these up here earlier in the day. I thought you guys might like some of these. So Houston is well noted. Houston, a newcomer, obviously, but Houston is well noted for running up the score in the non-conference. They do not let off the gas, and it's partially because their defense is so good. They're suffocating. They're 6-1 against the spread as a non-conference favorite of more than 10 points. That's just playing in the Big 12. Before that, they had done really well as well. So this is a long-term thing. Their average ATS margin is plus 8.2 points. So they haven't been very close to the spread. You'll see many of these Houston games that finish, 80-40 or 85-42 or something like that. When they play those weak teams, they go ahead and blow them out. A lot of the other teams kind of play down to that level of competition. Houston is well noted for going ahead and blowing them away. Another one, Iowa State. You guys know this. Iowa State has a fantastic home court advantage. I mean, Hilton Coliseum is the real deal. I've never been there. I want to go there. You guys know that it's fantastic, but they're 43-29 against the spread in their last 72 non-conference home games. People are not that used to going to play at a place like Hilton Coliseum, and it shows. They've been covering spreads by a good margin. It also helps that they have such a strong defense. So last one, late season Big 12. So you're going to have to kind of file this away if you're listening, file this away for later in the season. It doesn't apply to right now, but it's game 24 to the end of the regular season. You take teams inside the Big 12 with an ATS cover percentage of 50% or lower. So you're betting out of favor teams, the teams that have not covered the spread that much. If you do this in the last decade, game 24 to the end of the regular season in the Big 12, 272 covers, 211 non-covers. It's 56.3%. And then that kind of a sample size, it's definitely very good. Out of favor teams that people think, man, this team hasn't covered the spread well in the Big 12, maybe just throw them to the trash pile. They've actually been good at the end of the year. They keep fighting. They're feisty teams. So late season in the Big 12, look for those teams that have kind of let bettors down throughout the earlier part of the season.
That's awesome. I'm taking my notes. Everyone else, if you listen, you just go back, write them down if that's something you want to take note of. Chase, any thoughts, man?
Yeah, I would underscore a couple points there, both from my own professional experience and then from having an ear inside of the sports book these days. The point about in-season pace adjustments is such a good one because a lot of these lines, let me back up and start here. There are 363 or 364 college basketball teams in Division I, in men's Division I. The sports books do not know everything about these teams. I've said this before, but there is this sort of almost godlike reverence for how the sports book knows everything and the book always knows and everything. I promise you the book does not always know. The book does not have a Bellarmine men's basketball expert that is sitting behind the counter like, this number should be 8.5 on Tuesday for 9 p.m. in ASUN out of conference. It's not how it works. So, especially early on, you can find so many good spots. I mean, they talk about like how the beginning of the season, it is such a challenge from a human perspective of just making all of these numbers. So there are definitely market holes to exploit. And like really, if you're talking to people who are like really inside Vegas, like this is not a secret. This is a secret if you like kind of new to gambling. This is not some like industry secret that nobody's ever heard before. And then to extend that out to the point about in-season tempo adjustments, they're hard to find because it's only a handful of teams that are really going to do this on the level that you want to look for every year. But if you can find a good candidate, I think West Virginia had a season like this 3 or 4 years ago where somewhere around January 10th, they were just like, we're going to play a lot faster. It takes many, many weeks for the book to catch up because a lot of these numbers are set. I don't want to say algorithmically, but they're certainly aided algorithmically, right? They're people have models that make numbers for games. Well, the book also, has their own numbers that they then can kind of shade one way or another using human expertise. That's what a lot of the trading team does. So to find examples like that in season where the numbers might be off 8 or 10 or 12 points, and it might stay that way for 2, 3, 4 weeks. You have such an opening if you could find an example like that. And the book, because there's 300 and some teams in men's college basketball, they're not going to be paying attention to every single outcome in every single game. So yeah, there are some real openings there. And that's why I love betting college basketball so much, just because there's so much territory that if you think about it in more like Marshall terms, that the sportsbook has to defend. That's their disadvantage, is they hang numbers for all the territory, and you can go snipe little corners and pockets that are being inefficiently managed.
Awesome, guys! Fantastic stuff. I appreciate some trade secrets being shared, because sometimes that stuff's hard to find. And
I don't know how secret that is, but it's definitely
it's good to know.
Yeah.
I didn't know all of it. I mean, I bet, like, I make dollar bets, but I didn't know all those things, so I'll take them. All right. So let's wrap up from last week so we can start getting on to week 12. Chase, we all sucked last week.
Yeah, sure did.
Sorry, earmuffs kids. We all sucked. I won the week at 3-4. So that tells you how last week went. Our guest, Zach King, went 2-5, and Chase went 1-6.
Sure
so
did.
Let's run through it. Chase hit on Kansas +3 versus Iowa State, missed on the over 56.5 in Cincinnati, West Virginia, missed on the under 62.5 in Texas Tech, Colorado, missed on UCF +3 against Arizona State. That was a consensus curse pick right there. That's what happens here on the show. We talk about it all the time. Missed on Oklahoma State +11.5. That wasn't close. Missed on the under 40.5 in Utah BYU, and Florida +21.5 versus Texas, the non-Big 12 pick. Not close either. So 1-6 on the week, 45, 51, and 1 on the season now, sir.
Yeah, brutal developments on all of those totals, every last one. But I was saying before we started recording, I would much rather just get my head cut off, like in that Florida game. You watch the first 7 minutes of that game, and I'm like, yep, this bet's toast. I much prefer that than just the agonizing last 30 seconds of the game, missing every total. It is what it is.
Tons of fun. I went 3-4, as I said. Hit on the over 50 in Kansas, Iowa State. Hit on Colorado -3.5 versus Texas Tech. And hit on Duke +3.5 versus, it's NC State. Duke won straight up. Misses were Cincinnati -4.5 against West Virginia. Thanks for all the turnovers, Brendan Sorsby. Missed on, as I mentioned, the consensus curse of UCF +3. Missed on the over 66.5 in TCU, Oklahoma State. And missed on BYU -3.5. The Cougs won, but they did not cover. 30-4 on the week, 50-45 on the season. As I mentioned, Kinger went 2-5, so our guests are 34, 52, and 1. I keep track. Yes, the only winning week we've had so far, Kyle. Our friend Gary Seegers went 4-3. That is the only winning week for a guest so far this year. We're coming down to the end of the season, so good luck to you, sir.
The glory is right in front of you, Kyle. It's there for the taking.
Well, when you put it that way.
Okay, so with all that said, you guys ready to make some picks for week 12?
Yeah.
Please, let's do it.
Feel your max with Brooks Running and the all-new Ghost Max 2. They're the shoes you deserve, designed to streamline your stride and help protect your body. Treat yourself to feel-good landings on an ultra-high stack of super comfy nitrogen-infused cushion that takes the edge off every step, every day. The Brooks Ghost Max 2. You know, technically, they're a form of self-care. Brooks, let's run there. Head to brooksrunning.com to learn more.
Excellent. All right. We do this the same way every week. We will pick every Big 12 game. You can choose against the spread over under. If you want to pick something else, you're welcome to, but we're going to make a pick for every game. And we go in chronological order, which means we start with a Friday night game. Oh, I love some weeknight Big 12 action. Though you're going to have to stay up late for this one. 9:15 p.m. kickoff, God's time on FS1. Arizona hosting Houston, fourth ever meeting between these two teams. Houston won the last two in 2017 and 2018. At the moment, refreshed on me and moved it. Sorry, everybody. I'm doing this live. Gotta go find the numbers again. Give me a second. There we go. Arizona currently about a 1.5 point favorite, depending upon where you shop. Total in this one, 45.5, pretty much across the board. Kyle, as our guest, you get first pick, sir. What would you like?
So the thinking here is just take whether I want a side or a total or anything from each of these games, correct? Just whatever I want to go with.
Whatever you want.
So this is not my favorite of the games and I'll try to be transparent about the ones that I like better. I will take Houston here, plus the 1 or 1.5 points. So, I mean, this is not what I expected from Arizona, to be frank. You know, I expected Arizona to be laying more than this, but Arizona has been a big letdown here this year. I mean, the fact that they have no running game, I still kind of think that Fafita is good. It's kind of hard for him to prove it. He doesn't have a great offensive line. They have no running game. Both teams had a bye week to get ready for this game. Houston has 11 interceptions. Zion Chris is the better option at quarterback for them. I do like Fritz. I think he's a good coach. And Fritz has been good as a dog. No, I mean, this is 1 or 1.5 points. So we're pushing it here. But to me, Houston 27th in success rate allowed on defense. I think the best unit on either side is the Houston defense. So I'm going to trust Houston running the ball to be able to have some success. And then the Houston defense here. I would like it more if I was getting more points. I also kind of lean to the under, but 45.5 is pretty low. So I'm going to go with Houston plus the point or 1.5 here.
All right. Houston plus 1.5. Chase?
I like Houston as well, but it's going to be under 45.5 for me. Houston is consistently under the market price. In the totals market. They're 8-1 to the under. It's the best mark in FBS college football. And on the Arizona side, they've just completely mismanaged their offensive talent pretty much all season. I'm not going to overthink this under 45.5.
Yeah, man, look, I don't have a lot of notes on this. It's Houston or the under. Houston's 1-8 to the under, as you mentioned. Arizona's 4-5 to the under as well. Like it's Noah Fafita and Tedero McMillan, and that's it. That's the whole offense. And if you can shut down T-Mac and double him, that's it. I'm concerned on the total. Week off, Arizona at home. Like, I could see them breaking a couple big plays. It makes me a little bit nervous in that situation. Looking through the projections, SP Plus has Arizona by 4.5. Tishu has Houston by 2.5. FEI has Houston by 1. Beta Rank has Houston by 2.5. Parker has Houston by 2.5. And Kelly Ford, K Ford gives Arizona a 58% chance to win. The totals, only one of the totals projects to the under. Everybody else projects to the over. I'm going to side with Kyle here and agree. I'm taking Houston. I think it's the safer bet. I get the under makes sense It's at a point now where I get concerned about how low it is. So I'll ride with Houston to pull off the road upset, air quotes, because podcasting is a visual medium, upset over Arizona. Moving down the list, we move to Saturday, 11 a.m. God's time on Fox, big noon Saturday in Boulder. I mean, they're there for Colorado and Deion Sanders, not necessarily for this particular matchup. Big noon doesn't go to always the best games, but they go to the teams they want to go to. Colorado hosting Utah this weekend. Whoo boy. Utah leads this series 25-32 and 32-25-3, sorry. Has won the last 7 in a row and 11 of the last 12. But Utah is what they are this year. At the moment, Colorado, an 11.5 point home favorite. Total in this one at 46.5. Chase, you were up first, sir. What would you like?
This is, to me, another game where you probably don't want to overthink it. Utah is 7-2 to the under. They'd be 8-1 if BYU had a slightly less good field goal kicker. Colorado, more effective at controlling the pace of the game and time of possession as the roster's gelled this season. Travis Hunter might completely distort Utah's offense because it's so limited to begin with. There's also the fact that this game is being played 10 a.m. local time, which is a little weird on the body clock, I think. I bet this first thing Monday. I was shocked that it was as high as 47.5. I would make this more in the 41 to 44 range. So I think you're getting some additional points in the totals market. It's under 46.5 for me. Big 12 bet of the week.
Woohoo! Big 12 bet of the week on an under 46.5. You sicko. You absolute sicko. All right, I have to ask the question. Has Utah emotionally recovered from their Holy War loss? Because their AD lost his mind, and the fans are still complaining. Like it's Wednesday night. We're recording this, and I still saw Utah fans like posting videos about it and talking about it. Has Utah recovered from that? I don't know. Brent Keithy, their best weapon on offense, is out for the year. He leads Utah in receiving touchdowns with 6. The rest of the team has 11 receiving touchdowns combined. So is Brandon Rose, the quarterback who started against BYU. He suffered a season-ending injury this week. So we're back to Isaac Wilson. Woohoo! Can we discuss how incredible it is that Colorado has 4 rushes of 20 yards or more all year, and the offense is still as solid as it is? Like, we've said this all year. They don't rush the ball. They can't rush the ball. They rush it some. And yet the offense is still playing as well as it is. That is very impressive. One quick note on Colorado. They are 1-1 against the other 7 teams currently in the top half of the Big 12 conference standings. Let that sink in for a second.
I saw that this week too. Yeah, and I don't want to... You want to be fair to Colorado because it is a good season that they're having, but you also want to provide the context of, man, they have really over-indexed on the bottom half of this conference. Yeah.
Hey, you can only play the teams that are on your schedule. It's why I don't like having to deal with Colorado at 11.5, but I don't trust Utah to cover an 11.5. Of our projections we read here, SP Plus has it over. Tishu has it under by a point. FEI has it under by 5 points. Betaring has it under by 10 points. And Parker has it over by about 5. I'm riding with you, Chase. I'm also taking the under 46.5. Kyle?
It's because of how strongly you feel, Phillip, about the Big 12 bet of the week. It's when you see that tag, you have to do it.
Well, I also put $1 on that. So, all right, Kyle, you are up, sir. What would you like?
So, again, not my favorite of the bets here, but I'm going to take Colorado minus the points here in this one. I love Utah as a program. Kyle Whittingham's fantastic, but could there be a more heartbreaking way to lose than what Utah just lost? I mean, that's a horrible one to bounce back from. Questionable penalties. I mean, they couldn't score a point the whole second half either, though. This offense is ultra limited now. Then you take away Keithy. He was their weapon that was left. Colorado's defense is so much improved. The defensive coordinator's done a great job there. I think Utah's defense is good, but Shedeur Sanders has been so tremendous. 20 big time throws, 5 turnover worthy plays, top 7 in PFF pass offense grade. They have too many good receivers. I don't think Utah is going to score very many points here, and I wouldn't mind a Utah team total under if you're taking team totals, because I think Utah will not score very many points here. But for the sake of not taking the same two, I'm going to go ahead and take Colorado minus the, looks like 11 is probably the lowest it can be. So Colorado minus the points I will take, thinking just a terrible spot here for Utah. Colorado could win this one by, 17 points. I don't think that would be surprising.
All right. I have 11.5. If you got an 11, I don't have all the books. I have 4 books. So, where do you have 11 at?
Let's see. 11 at Bookmaker and Heritage. So,
oh yeah,
we can go 11.5 if you want to.
Pro shops, definitely. Yeah, no. You get 11 if you got it at Bookmaker.
Okay. 11 it is. Congratulations. All right. Moving on down the list, we move to the afternoon slate. 3 p.m. God's time kickoff on ESPN2. West Virginia in Morgantown, playing host to Baylor. West Virginia has been the dominant team in this series. They lead at 8-4 with every game coming in Big 12 play. Since the Mountaineers joined the conference, West Virginia has won the last 2 in a row, 3 of the last 4. And oh, by the way, Baylor has never won in Morgantown. Just a fun little note that, might be relevant considering Baylor is currently the 2.5-point road favorite in this one. Total is about 58.5, 59. West Virginia rushes more on average than the average team and is okay at it. Baylor is pretty good against the run. Now, Baylor has struggled against rushing quarterbacks. Retzlaff had success. Becht had success. Green is a better rushing quarterback. Now, we don't know for sure that he's going to start or if it's going to be Nico. The way they keep talking about it feels like a little bit of gamesmanship, like Green's probably going to start over Nico, that he's finally healthy enough to start, but it feels like it's a little bit of like, we're not going to tell you who it's going to be, so you have to plan for both quarterbacks. I get the feeling Green is starting. I don't have confirmation. I don't have a man on the inside in Morgantown, okay? It's just the vibes that I'm getting. I like this game to get pointsy. This feels like a pointsy game between a Baylor offense with Sawyer Robertson, who's been so much better, a Baylor defense that does give up big plays. Now, look, if it's Green, he doesn't connect on a lot of big plays through the air. But if Green can get his legs going and kind of make some things happen, I feel like the total here is too low. Looking at the projections, like I said, I got 58.5 is still available. That's the lowest number I've got, which is awesome. SP Plus has it at 58. Tishu has it at 60. Beta has it at 68. Parker has it at 61.5. And for some reason, I didn't write down the total from FEI. I'm writing the over 58.5 in this one. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I think West Virginia's the right side, but I feel way better about the total. Kyle?
I'm picking the over as well. Baylor's been pushing the tempo in a big way this year, 9th quickest in the country. West Virginia doesn't play that fast. I think they've kind of slowed down because they know their defense is pretty bad. Their secondary, 130th in coverage grade at PFF. Sawyer Robertson's good. I've enjoyed watching him play. Good dual threat guy. I think he's going to have a big game here. Baylor has been pretty good against the run, but they do give up some explosive plays. And I think West Virginia has a path to success with getting some of those big plays, especially if Green plays. West Virginia does have a really good offensive line. And I think West Virginia in Morgantown can be competitive in a game like this. We've seen Baylor give up quite a few points here in the recent past. To me, Baylor's pushing the pace. West Virginia can stay in a game like this. 58.5, I'm taking the over.
Chase?
Fascinating game because there's probably a good case for every single one of the major 6-pack bets in this game. And I'll walk you through the 2 that I prefer. On the side, I prefer Baylor at -2.5. And the number is really telling me what I need to know here. Baylor's left for dead 3 or 4 weeks ago. Hot seat, Dave Aranda. That Baylor is favored on the road in West Virginia. I think that's a tell. And I can spin that a little bit more here in a second. But most logically, if you're trying to get to why is this number what it is, I think it's what you guys referenced, which is Sawyer Robertson's really good. And against this West Virginia secondary in particular, Baylor's probably going to eat on offense. On the total, it's everything you guys said. I prefer the over. Since the start of Big 12 play, Baylor has scored, if you plot everything they've done, 31, 28, 21, 59, 38, 37. That's a pretty healthy 36 points per game, reasonably tight spread. And my guess would be that they equal or surpass that against this West Virginia defense. I've talked about it before. West Virginia, win or lose, Nico or Garrett, one thing they do well is they have explosive potential on offense, and you guys detailed Baylor's tendency for allowing explosive plays. So I would tend toward the over there. But then the counterfactuals you have to consider. The rub, if you like the Baylor part, you have to swallow the fact that West Virginia has a new DC. They're moving some things around. They're disguising their coverages a lot more now. How does that interfere with Baylor's ability to scout the team and figure out what they're going to do pre-snap, the Morgantown home field advantage? Those are wrinkles that Baylor has to overcome. If you like the over, I think you have to explain why the totals market is in the high 50s, despite the fact that every Baylor game since mid-September has gone over 60 points, some of them into the 70s or 80s or 90s. What's going on there? I think it's about West Virginia's run game, the fact that they do play at that slower pace. They play more toward the mid-50s, so I think that drags this total down. What I feel more comfortable with, I think, at the end of the day, is the Baylor side, is that Robertson and the Baylor offense off of a bye going against West Virginia's secondary, that's probably the most reliable thing about this game. And I think the number is just too telling. You have two mid-table teams in the Big 12. West Virginia is actually ahead of Baylor in the standings. It would be really easy for this market price to be West Virginia -3 or West Virginia -2.5. But instead, it's flipped the other way. And I just think that says a lot about how you should feel about the sides here. So there's also, I mean, just to add one last wrinkle here, if Sorsby doesn't make two of the dumbest plays I've seen all season last week, does West Virginia even win that game? Right? If you had Cincinnati last week, you kind of have a right to be sick because they probably don't win that game except for Sorsby gifting them 14 points. So I will take the Baylor side of this here at the good number of -2.5.
Total West Virginia was gifted 17 points. I mean,
sure,
14 straight, and then another turnover that led to a field goal, and then Cincinnati lost by 7. Yeah. So
you can say like, "Oh, isn't that being in position to take advantage of mistakes and like all the things?" Sure, yeah, totally. But I just don't think
there's good defensive turnovers and there's bad offensive turnovers.
Those. I mean, especially the first one. Like, what are you doing? And like, I mean, Saturday, call a timeout, man. They're running around like chickens with their head cut off, and Sorsby trying to get all the players. Sorsby, it seems like, is the only one on that first play, the interception, that seems like he understands what's going on, but he's so frazzled trying to get everybody else like to line up correctly before they have to snap the ball that he just makes the stupidest play possible. Like, it's just. I couldn't believe it. As a Sorsby fan, I could not believe how bad those two plays were.
I love that we're saying all these things about Cincinnati while Kyle's wearing a Cincinnati Bearcat hat, or as I like to call it, the Chick-fil-A hat. Though it's not the all red hat with the white logo, then it would really be the Chick-fil-A.
Eat more.
One thing
more Bearcat.
Eat more Bearcat. Look, if you are a Bearcat fan, and may I suggest you go to charliehustle.com. and stock up on the incredible gear that they have there for you, because they got every Big 12 team covered, all 16. Arizona State fans, the game we're about to talk about here in a second, they just dropped a new jacket for you, and it is so good. It's got the script devils across the front. Like, just go look at it, okay? Go see it on the site right now. See everything they have at charliehustle.com. And remember our promo code 101215, TEN1215. It gets you 15% off all non-sale items. If it's on sale, load it in the cart, check out, you're good to go. If it's not on sale, use that promo code for 15% off all non-sale items. They have got something for every Big 12 fan there is, whether it's you, a family member, a friend that you've got to buy gifts for this holiday season. charliehustle.com, promo code 101215, 15% off all non-sale items. Charlie Hustle, vintage, made fresh. I mentioned Arizona State because that's where we're headed. Well, technically we're headed to Manhattan, Kansas, where Arizona State will be traveling to play Kansas State at 6 p.m. God's time on ESPN. Arizona State actually owns the overall series 5-1 with Kansas State, but the Wildcats won the last matchup back in 2002. So it's been a minute since these two teams faced off on the gridiron. At the moment, Kansas State, anywhere from an 8 to 9 point favorite, depending upon the book you're shopping. That's quite the difference. Total is pretty much 50.5 across the board. Kyle, you are up first, sir. What would you like here?
Man, okay. So first, I have an important question that has nothing to do with the bet, but Cam Scatabo or Scataboo? How do you pronounce his last name?
I thought it was Bo. I've been led to believe that it's Boo.
And so I've heard too many people saying Scataboo lately. I'm like, maybe it's Scataboo.
Yes.
Okay. So
because it's spelled like you would think it would be Bo because it's B-O. But I have been led to believe that I have been wrong.
I'm gonna go.
It is Cam Scataboo.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Cam Scataboo then. But I think Dillingham versus Kleiman is a fantastic coaching matchup. I mean, Dillingham has done a great job. I mean, full disclosure here. I bet Arizona State under 4.5 season wins. Well, one of my worst bets I've made here, so I'll wear it. I thought that this was a difficult schedule for them, and it hasn't really mattered that it was a difficult schedule for them. You know, they're just taking that big of a step. And season win totals have usually been pretty good for me, but that was a bad one. Dillingham being the youngest coach and being able to get those guys to play so hard every single week is really impressive. I also think that Sam Levitt is underrated. He's sneaky mobile, really good decision maker. Like, he has made a world of difference. You guys remember who they had at quarterback last year. This is so much better. The upgraded quarterback is far bigger than I expected it was going to be. On the other side, you have Chris Kleiman, who's 40-23 against the spread at Kansas State. So if you just bet on Chris Kleiman every week at Kansas State, you've been doing really well. This is a really tough one for me. I don't know what to bet in this one. I think this is probably my least favorite one of all the ones we're talking about. But laying this many against a feisty Arizona State team kind of feels bad to me. Looking like Scataboo probably plays in this one. Levitt, like I said, I think he makes good decisions. Kansas State is a good team, but I think they have some flaws. I'm going to take Arizona State plus the 9, and I don't feel great about it, but that's what I'm going to go with here.
All right, Chase.
Yeah, I want to talk about my pick in this game for a second, but I want to break in here with some news. It won't be news by the time you're listening to this, but you can go find the video online. The fire alarm is going off in the press box at the Ohio Eastern Michigan game right now, and firefighters are trying to break into the press box via the roof with a chainsaw, and they just broke the chainsaw on the roof. So,
okay.
I just had my note. I had my notes up on page on screen 1 over here, and Phillip on screen 2, and screen 3 is Twitter showing me broken chainsaw at Ohio Bobcat Stadium. So
It's
got to be one of the best stories of the year. I like Kansas State minus the points. I really liked Colin Wilson's breakdown of this game from Action Network. K-State off a bye, strong defensive rush efficiency. They're third in the Big 12 in EPA allowed per rush. The two teams that actually rank higher than K-State in EPA allowed per rush in the Big 12, BYU and Cincinnati. And Arizona State lost to Cincinnati by 10, and they haven't played BYU yet. So I think in terms of the specific matchup of this game, you have an Arizona State team that wants to run the ball and a Kansas State team that's pretty good at defending the run. Can the Arizona State passing game win enough, push the defenders out of the box enough to open up room for the run game there for Scadaboo? I don't know, but I'm going to say probably not. So I'm going to lay the points.
My only note for this is Scadaboo is expected back, but Kansas State has a top 10 rushing defense nationally. If this was a road game, I'd take Arizona State. That's where Kansas State has struggled this year the most. At home, they've been really good, and they're coming off of a week off. Scadaboo is, I don't know that he's 100%, not that anybody's 100% at this point of the season. I love your point, Kyle, on Leavitt. He has been really good. Now it makes so much sense why he was kind of projected to be the starter, and part of why, was it Raiola that left, that went to Georgia? I can't remember who the stud that they had there that ended up leaving and is now a backup in Georgia or whatever. Huh?
Was it Rashada?
Yes, that's what it was. It was Rashada. I don't know. Why did I think Dylan Raiola? I can't. There's too many quarterbacks that are supposed to be something that transfer around. I can't keep track of it anymore. But I too will ride with the Wildcats at home to cover the 8 points, especially at that low at home. I feel pretty good about it.
So, you want to be a marketer. It's easy. You just have to score a ton of leads and figure out a way to turn them all into customers. Plus, manage a dozen channels, write a million blogs, and launch 100 campaigns all at once. When that's done, simply make your socials go viral and bring in record profits. No sweat. Okay, fine. It's a lot of sweat. But with HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools, launching benchmark-breaking campaigns is easier than ever. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
So we move on down to 7 o'clock on Fox. Iowa State hosting Cincinnati. Iowa State won the first ever meeting between these two teams last year, 30-10 at Cincinnati. It's wild to me that these two teams have only played once, and it was last year in conference play. I don't know. It's just stuff with proximity, you think sometimes. I don't know. At the moment, a struggling Iowa State team is about an 8.5 to 9.5 point favorite, depending upon where you shop. Total is a 53.5 across the board. Chase, you're up first, sir. What would you like here?
I just don't understand how you can lay this number with Iowa State right now. If you think about, the idea that giving points with a team, you are handing advantage away. Like, you need a good reason to do that. And I don't know what we've seen from Iowa State in the last 3 or 4 weeks that makes me comfortable laying north of a touchdown against a Cincinnati team that we know is competent. Like, they're a good mid-table kind of team. This point spread would make sense to me on October 16th or September 16th. I think on November 16th, this is way too rich. So I think 9.5 is the number. Did I have that right? I can get a 9.5. Yeah. DraftKings and our shop over at MGM. So give me Cincinnati plus the 9.5, because I think this is kind of a ridiculous number if you're paying attention.
Yeah, look, we've talked about it already. Cincinnati probably should have won last week, except for, they gifted them West Virginia 17 points, and Brennan Sorsby had 2 terrible turnovers. Meanwhile, Iowa State's defense has struggled the last few weeks. And we've talked about this on the show a lot, especially if you listen to us on Mondays. Like, the injuries for Iowa State have been a problem all season, specifically at linebacker. But now the injury list is like a comical, like Santa has unrolled the children's list at Christmas, and now we're just gonna follow it for like a 10-minute parade. It's real bad in Ames right now, and I think that's a big part of why we're seeing what we're seeing with this defense. It gave up 35 to UCF, where Iowa State had to mount a big comeback, gave up a game-winning drive to Texas Tech, and then let Kansas put up 45 last week. And I know that Kansas has had a resurgent offense, but still, this Iowa State defense is just not what it was at the start of the season. It is struggling. I don't think that Iowa State should be favored by this much. I like Brennan Sorsby. I'm not saying that I'm overvaluing how the 2 terrible plays he had last week, but he has not been as good as he was at the start of the season. I don't know whether that's teams just have tape on him and have a better idea of what it is that they want to do with Cincinnati's offense. I don't know, but he hasn't been as good. Now he's got to go on the road to Ames, which was scary until UCF almost beat them there, and then Texas Tech did. I know 9.5's a lot. as soon as you start to doubt Iowa State, like, it's going to come back and bite you. I've got this bad feeling. I don't want anything to do with the total because I don't like the defense. The way it's been playing tells me I should take the over in this one. The numbers say take the over. The numbers all side with Cincinnati. SP Plus is the only one that has Iowa State by more at 10. Everyone else is roughly 8 or less. But I'm just gonna ride with Iowa State minus 8.5. If nothing else, I'll keep the Wide Right Natty Light Discord channel happy, and they'll all be my friends still, and they won't kick me out. So I will take the Cyclones minus 8.5. Kyle,
I'm seeing an 8, Phillip, at Rivers.
Oh, I'll take it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, 8, a sneaky important number sometimes. So we had to take that 8. What happened to the Iowa State defense? UCF picked them apart too. UCF 7.1 yards per play. Kansas, they've been resurgent definitely, but like you said, Texas Tech, when they needed a drive, they got a drive against them. Iowa State is banged up, like you said. I think that as bad as he looked last week, Sorsby is still pretty good overall. And some people overreact to what they just saw last. And, Sorsby's awful. Even in the BetUS chat, this week, people are like, "Oh, Sorsby is like the worst." It's like I don't really think Sorsby is bad. He looked bad last week, but Cincinnati's 28th in offensive success rate in the country. Cincy's running back room is really talented too. I think Cincinnati can score points in this game. So then you look at the other side and you say, what about Iowa State? Cincinnati's 106th in defensive line yards. I think Iowa State will be able to run more than they can against most teams. I like Becht. I think he can make some good decisions. I'm going to take the over here. I'm seeing 53 a couple different places. This one's just moved here in the last few minutes. So I'm going to take the over 53. 53 probably won't hit anyways because it's not a common number, but I'll take the over 53 thinking that I think both teams can score enough here. There's not going to be a lot of pace. So, not a really fast paced game, but 53 is nothing too high. And the way that Iowa State's defense has played of late, I think Sorsby could have a bit of a bounce back spot here. I'll take the over.
I like it. All right, last Big 12 game on the docket for this week. Another late one, 9:15 p.m. ESPN. BYU, coming off of the scare against Utah, hosting a suddenly resurgent Kansas Jayhawk team. Jayhawks are 2-0 all time against BYU, including beating the Cougars 38-27 last year. At this particular moment, BYU is a 2.5-point home favorite. Total in this one is at 56.5. For some reason, this is the game I have the most notes on, so just bear with me for just a second. Kansas has seemingly fixed the offense the last 3 weeks since their idle week. Before then, against FBS competition, they were averaging 24.6 points per game and more than 2 turnovers a game through their first 6 games of the season. Since the idle week, Kansas is averaging 38 points per game and less than 1 turnover a game. That comes against 3 of the better defenses in the conference in Houston, Kansas State, and, well, I say Iowa State. I don't know at this point. They are also now number 1 in the Big 12 in yards per play, which is insane. Also, do you realize Jalen Daniels was responsible for all but 1 of Kansas's 13 turnovers this season? He had 10 before the idle week and just 2 in the last 3 games. He is playing so much better and has been a big part of this resurgent Kansas offense. If BYU is 7th nationally in turnover margin at plus 1.1 a game and 3rd in takeaways per game at 2.5. So if Kansas doesn't turn the ball over, which they haven't really done these last 3 games, I think that Kansas could be the right side of this game. I know. It's Provo at night. I preach Provo at night on this show. People get tired of hearing me say Provo at night. Take a drink every time I do, and you'll be drunk halfway through a podcast. That's why I fully expect BYU to win. It's also why I like the over in this game. BYU is 7-2 to the over this season, including hitting the over in the last 5. They've gone over by the total by at least a touchdown 5 times this year. The teams are combined 12-5-1 to the over on the season, 9-0-1 in the last 5 games. Give me the over in this game. That is the over 56.5. Kyle?
Love the over in this one. This is my favorite of the bets that we've talked about here tonight. Kansas's offense has woke up in a big way. Even in the loss against Kansas State, they had a good game, 6.2 yards per play. Kansas State defense is good. Against Houston, 8.6 yards per play. Houston's a good defense. Like, that was a super good showing. And then 536 yards, 45 points against Iowa State. Jalen Daniels is definitely back in a big way. I am impressed with what they've done with Jalen Daniels here of late. He has taken shots way, way down the field. I mean, almost 20 yards for his average depth of target last week. They're just, run or deep pass. We were talking, Gary Parker and I, saying that it's almost like the Jalen Milroe offense. It's like, okay, we run or we throw it deep. We don't throw short passes. And it's been working. So Jalen Daniels, I think he's going to have success here. BYU, if you look at them defensively, BYU is 82nd in rushing play success rate allowed in the country, 88th in yards per carry allowed. Even Kansas State, you guys remember the Kansas State game? Game was just absolutely bonkers. The period of time there at the end of the first half at BYU, and then the beginning of the second half, Kansas State actually moved the ball pretty well to have 9 points in the game, but just, the Provo late night magic, which is just insane. I think that Kansas will move the ball. I assume they'll be able to score a decent amount of points here. Kansas is now first in the Big 12 in yards per play. Their offense is third nationally in offensive line yards. I think they're going to run the ball well here. And if Daniels hits a couple of those deep passes, I think there could be some explosive plays. On the other side, BYU's been running the ball pretty well here lately, almost 5 yards per carry, 4.86 in Big 12 play. Kansas is 116th in defensive line yards in the country. The Kansas offense has been really good. The Kansas defense is still not great. I think BYU moves it up and down the field well here too. And I think this is kind of a shootout, back and forth, real close game. I like the over.
All right, that's 2 to the over. Chase, you're muted.
Sure am. It's a very similar process to last week's handicap against Iowa State. It's very telling when you have two teams, and the home team is an undefeated sole possession of first place, top 10 ranked inside position for the college football playoff. Like, every possible thing you could have going for you, the magical late night kickoff trends that Phillip loves, every possible thing going BYU's way. And then on the Kansas side, you're a 3-win team that's looked pretty good lately. What's the point spread? 17, 12, 11, 10, 3. It's just so telling. When I talk about reading the number and playing the game accordingly, this is the ultimate example of that. It's Kansas +3 for me. The number is telling you how seriously you need to take Kansas. And I'll add one more thing on top of that from a wider Big 12 perspective. If and when Kansas wins this game, or if it's even close, which I expect that it will be, it's going to be a real shame that the discussion of this game after the fact from the powers that be and the 4 letters on my television are going to focus on how BYU lost to a 3-win team, and it's evidence of how trash the Big 12 is. It's not respectful for what Kansas is doing right now. It's not respectful for the depth of this conference. And it will be yet another plank in a wider discussion we should have at some point here between now and the end of the season about how when other teams have depth and parity, it's a positive thing that explains why they are strong conferences. And when the Big 12 has depth and parity, it's an example of how they don't have any top-end talent and how the conference is like a souped-up version of the Big East from 15 years ago or something. It's just... It's really like intellectually offensive to watch some of the things that are said right now about college football and different conferences. And we are so tied to, confirming our priors about teams and conferences that we don't have people rigorously watching the games, and it's frustrating.
You mean the point that was made about how teams like BYU and Indiana, they wouldn't stand up to Tennessee and Alabama. They couldn't play with that. You mean the teams that are on par with like Vanderbilt and Kentucky? Sure.
It's really
sure,
frustrating.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, they're gonna fit the narrative. They're gonna change the narrative to fit the result. And the three-loss SEC team in the playoff narrative has already begun by ESPN's favorite mouthpiece, who I will not name because I don't want to be that way. But it's going to happen.
I don't even necessarily want it to be an anti-SEC thing, because I think the removal of Saban, and I'm a Saban fan, so I don't want to sound like I'm a Saban hater.
Sure.
Because he Fairmont boy, so he's my guy. But the removal of Saban from Alabama and bringing Alabama back down to the pack in the SEC has made the SEC deeply compelling from a competitive standpoint. Like that's a conference that has real depth and competition for a divisionless championship game in a way that I can't remember in my adult life. I mean, there was maybe one year there where the SEC West was like 1-7 all the way deep. Arkansas was like in last place and went 8-5 or something. I mean, but it's a really compelling conference. It's frustrating to hear people talk about the SEC in a way that completely applies to the Big 12 too. And yet those things are negatives when we talk about this conference, but they're positives when we talk about other conferences. It frustrates me.
I mean, it's being applied to the ACC too. Like the Big 12 is now the conference that is, the narrative is going to change for the Big 12, but be applied to the ACC and the SEC. And I mean, it doesn't fit with the Big 10. I'm sorry, it doesn't. It remains a top heavy conference with a team in Indiana who's a lot of fun and has risen up and deserves some respect. But like, that is the new, like, this conference is top heavy and there's a big mashed potato mush in the middle. Kyle, do you have any thoughts? Well, feel free.
You got any clouds you want to yell at?
Yeah. I mean, I do agree. You can already see it being put in place. Like, well, if they lose 3 games, we got to consider who they played. Like it's everybody can see it coming. They're not saying it all out in public right now, but it's already gonna be there. And we know what it's all about at the end of the day. I mean, I don't have to go on about it too much. But it's still a bummer. I mean, you get put in this spot and you say, okay, let's see, who's the biggest name, who's going to be a really good draw. They're probably going to get it. I think that BYU or an Indiana will not have the same shot. And Indiana, obviously being a Big Ten team, but Indiana's been fantastic this year. Cincinnati has done a fantastic job with them. And BYU, I think they should be afforded one slip up. But like you guys said, I think if they have that slip up, they're going to say, well, Kansas isn't good, or whoever they play. Well, this team's flawed. I mean, even if it was, Colorado, they'd say something negative about Colorado. Well, they can't run, but they're good. I mean, look at Shedeur Sanders. I agree with you. I wish that it wouldn't be so easy for a named team that, as you say, well, they have 3 losses, but look who they beat. Well, they lost 3 games, and some of those are teams that, some of these other teams like BYU or Indiana or whoever it may be in that position later on would have had a very real chance to beat. So I think it'd make it a little more fun if it wasn't so obvious.
So congratulations to Missouri and South Carolina this weekend. The winner will continue their march towards the playoff, and the loser will pick up a very, very valuable quality loss that will improve their resume as well. All right.
If
we wrap this show, go ahead.
If BYU loses to Kansas, how is that any different than Ole Miss losing to Kentucky?
Well, but it's Ole Miss, and Kentucky's in the SEC.
I don't get it.
It is what it is. It is what it is. We know how the sausage is made. Some people like to eat the thing in one bite, and some of us have to just eat it, very.
Still going to yell about pork, Phillip.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
We end this show the same way every week. We all get to make one pick in a non-Big 12 game of our choosing. You can pick whatever game you want, however you want to make the pick. Kyle, you are up first, sir. What would you like?
Right. Sometimes I pick these way under the radar games. I'm not going to this time because I thought about picking the sickest game, and then you guys would have been like, why is he here? Like, what is he doing?
No. Trust me. No. Sickos are welcome on the show, okay? Weird Tuesday night Maction picks. Obviously, you can't do it now. Are very welcome.
That's a man chasing the Kennesaw State dead cat bounce right there. That's what that is.
No, I almost did, and I just because if it loses, I'd feel terrible. But I almost picked Florida Atlantic and Temple game, but that's just disgusting. That one is.
I'm gonna show you if you could see. My phone's not gonna show up on the computer screen. That's one of my options.
All right.
Is FAU Temple.
I'm going to say that
you are among brothers.
I was going to say that's my second option. I am better at totals than at sides, and it was going to be a side in that one. So I'm going to try to go with the total, thinking that I'll try to help the listeners out, hoping that my long-term totals record is fantastic. So I'm going to go with Tennessee and Georgia under 48.5. This is one where this is bad.
You took my other one.
Okay. We're thinking along the same lines here. I think Tennessee, there's several ways that Tennessee could not score points here. Do we know if Nico is actually healthy? And if Nico is healthy, can he actually throw against the Georgia secondary? Because Kirby Smart's still a good defensive mind, that's for sure. And Tennessee has not been very good on offense in the SEC. They're 10th in the SEC in yards per play. If they can run, they can move the ball, but I don't know that they can run. And if Nico plays, I don't think he'll, be 100% by any means. And on the other side, Georgia, I mean, Carson Beck has looked awful of late. Now, I am a little bit worried that Carson Beck's interception issues could cause, pick six or short fields, things like that. But Tennessee's defense has been fantastic. Their front seven is excellent. I don't think Georgia can run the ball here. I'm going to take under 48.5 for Tennessee and Georgia.
Well, you can have it. I am in agreement, sir. Chase, what would you like?
Yeah, I feel like I've been a little too cute with some of the last few picks. So let me just throw the meat on the table and make a big saucy bet here. Notre Dame minus 22.5. I don't care. With apologies to my sister and father-in-law and other family members that went to the University of Virginia. Notre Dame has dropped back-to-back 50 burgers. I think UVA's maybe a little higher than they should be in the market after the win at Pitt last week. I just don't think this game's going to be competitive, and so I'm going to do something a little different than I'm usually doing with chasing, some undervalued G5 sides and whatever else. Just going to lay a big number with Notre Dame because I think they're going to kill UVA.
I think it's really about laying a big number against UVA as much as it is about Notre Dame. But yes, that's fine. It is all yours. All right. Well, since Kyle took the under Tennessee, Georgia, I will go to the Temple FAU game. I had already had this one because, like I've said on the show before, when I start going through all of the numbers at SP Plus and TSHU and FEI, I start looking for where their numbers show a drastic difference compared to the betting line. Now, in the end, it was about a 50-50 split here as to which side the different metrics were on. But the one that got me started was, I looked at SP Plus, and it had FAU as a 4.5, like an almost 5-point favorite. TSHU had FAU minus 1.5. Kelly Ford gave FAU a 54% chance to win. FEI had Temple by 0.9. Beta had Temple by 7. And Parker had Temple by 3. Well, Temple is a 2.5-point home favorite. I don't know squat about Temple in Florida Atlantic. I don't think Temple's any good. to the point where I'm like, I don't know how bad Florida Atlantic is, but I don't know why Florida Atlantic should be a dog against Temple wherever they're playing, because I don't think Temple's any good. So my original pick was FAU plus 2.5. So you know what? I'm just going to roll with it, because sometimes I can overthink these things and then I go like, well, I think I found this pick late. No, I'm just going to go with the OG one I had on my list. FAU plus 2.5 over Temple.
Sicko special there.
Can I go?
Okay, Cal.
Can I go bonus pick?
Yeah, always.
I hate to run down the alma mater here yet again, but
All
right. The teams JMU has beaten since the North Carolina game, which is now 2 full months ago: Ball State, Southern Miss, Georgia State, Coastal Carolina. It's not great. They're a road favorite at ODU in a rivalry game. I don't know, man. Probably take the points with the Monarchs there.
I mean, you've been spot on when it's bet against JMU.
Yeah.
So
unfortunately.
Okay, Kyle, I have to know, since we both were on the FAU Temple game, which side were you on, sir?
I was going to bet Temple, so we're going to see. It's going to be fun. We're going to circle back to this next week and figure out. Like I said, I'm not as good at sides as I am at totals. I think this is the week we find out whether Florida Atlantic has given up. Has Florida Atlantic given up, or have they not? Because their talent is better than Temple, but Florida Atlantic, they gave up more than 10 yards per play last week, and they look like they just only somewhat even wanted to be there. So with the injuries they have, Temple rarely gets a shot to win. I was going to bet Temple, but we'll see. We'll have bragging rights.
I will bring it up in the Wednesday live chat over there at
that's right.
the Bet US College Football Show.
There you go.
Kyle, of course, everyone, that is a great spot to go and see Kyle's work. You guys are live every Tuesday and Wednesday to make picks at noon Central Time. It is you, Gary, and our good friend Stats Award Parker Fleming. You guys do a great job. You've got a great live chat going on over there. You've got a great, I think, cast of characters is a good way of describing the individuals that are in the chat, like yours truly here. Kyle, where else can everybody check out all the work you do covering betting college sports?
Yeah, we have a lot of fun with that show. So if you haven't already checked out the Bet US show, definitely check it out. Gary and Parker, great guys. They know college football really well. Definitely recommend both of those guys a lot. You can follow me at Kyle Hunter Picks on Twitter or X. And my website is huntersportspicks.com. You can sign up for the free picks newsletter over there as well. So lots of ways to get a hold of me. And if you want to ask me a question or anything, don't feel free to reach out to me by email or DM or whatever. Always open to chat.
Kyle, man, seriously, appreciate you hopping on. This has been a pleasure. We're going to get all three of you on the show. Like I'm here to, I enjoy the work you guys do. So happy to have you on and try and help grow that audience even more. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on. It's been fun, guys.
Absolutely. Chase, I know that the week 12 picks are live at BetMGM. We will have the link to that in the show notes. How's the I always call it the wrong thing, so I'm going to call it the Bet a Million. How's the Bet a Million going?
Square Bets podcast. We are 120th place right now in Circa Millions, so we were just outside of the money on the season long. Probably already out of it for Q3 with a 3-2 week 10, but we actually down 2 people this week, so we had to kind of slog through 5 picks with 4 people, which was a different vibe for us. So we really had to really drag a 5th pick out at the end. We didn't like much. I actually liked a lot, but they kind of outvoted me. I like some really ugly stuff this week. Raiders +8 and Titans +6 and some really ugly stuff, but they didn't go for that. So we got the picks that'll be submitted tomorrow, and we'll see how it goes, man. We got 7 weeks left. We're trying to do the impossible here with the squarest bettors of all time, try to finish in the money in Circa Millions. So we're shockingly close to making that a reality.
Make sure and check out the show. Check us out on YouTube, 1012 Podcast on YouTube. We dropped a new 1012 Overtime. Our very good friend Brian Ralph of Heat Check College Basketball. We talk a little Big 12 men's basketball for about 20 minutes or so there, and he's got a really fun take. I will clip it and post it on social. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, Iowa State and Houston fans. Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. So you can find us pretty much on all the socials. We will be back on Monday to recap the weekend that was, look ahead to the week that will be. Y'all enjoy the games this weekend.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.